Now, David Kong, President and CEO of Best Western Hotels and Resorts. Good afternoon to you, David.
Good afternoon.
So whereabouts are you most optimistic for with this reopening? Is it the leisure side or the business side?
Well, primarily the leisure side. Right now, the demand is comprised almost entirely of the leisure segment. And people have been cooped up for months in their homes, and they're looking for a mini vacation with their families. So we're seeing pretty strong leisure demand.
Which countries are you seeing the biggest bounce in terms of reopening around the world?
Well, believe it or not, United States. And it's because we have so much domestic business that we can drive to within our own country. If you think about the global market, many of those countries rely on international travel. And with all the travel restrictions and quarantine requirements, there's just no business there. So it's much easier to drive domestic business. And I just give an example. Arguably, South Korea has done the best job in managing the pandemic. But if you look at the city of Seoul, it just relies so much on international arrivals. It's really in a horrible shape in terms of hotel business. But United States, on the other hand, has very strong low domestic ability to drive domestic business.
So, David, what are you doing to make sure that the rooms are clean and safe? And to what extent are your patrons demanding to know those details? Or are they, in fact, just quite happy to take your word for it and understand that you've done the necessary cleaning?
No, I think the safety and well-being of our guests is first and foremost on everyone's mind at this time, especially with the pandemic. People are very concerned about the cleanliness of hotels. And I applaud the effort of the American Hotel Lodging Association for starting the Safe Stay program. And our hotel company actually went above and beyond that. And I think it's really important to demonstrate that we take it seriously. So when people arrive at our hotels, we want them to see that there are lots of visual cues that they can pick up that we take it seriously, such as social distancing and having decals on the floor, having partition to the front desk, removing furniture, removing clutter in the hotel room, and changing the housekeeping service requirements, and so on and so forth.
What sort of pricing are you getting? Have you had to offer extra discount deals and promotions to get people enticed to book reservations again, like we've seen at some of the airlines?
Yes, for sure. Partly, the discounting is driven by excess inventory. You have all these big convention boxes that are sitting empty. They have lots of rooms. So they're going to start discounting and try to attract business, and that drives the price down. And secondly, a lot of people are fighting for survival, so they're offering cheaper prices just to get the business. So consumers are seeing really good, very, very good rates at this time. It's a great time to travel.
David, what's your cash position and how have you found access to financing over the last couple of months?
Well, we're in very good shape. We're a private company. We pride ourselves in having no debt at this time. So we continue to be in very good shape.
What about your employees, David? Have you had any trouble getting them to come back to work or to stay at work throughout the pandemic?
Initially, we had to make the painful decision to furlough a fair number of our employees, and we are gradually bringing some people back, and they're just overjoyed to be able to return to work.
And David, going back to the global footprint, which countries are you most concerned about? I mean, you mentioned South Korea. Anywhere else?
Yeah, there are some countries in Europe, such as Great Britain, but believe it or not, they are still very restrictive in terms of allowing hotels to open. Most of the hotels there are still not open, and they're going to slowly, gradually start to reopen, not until July. In Southeast Asia, it's terrible. Most governments are not allowing the hotels to reopen, so that's a terrible, terrible situation. So in different places, you see very, very heavy restrictions still imposed by the government. But I'm relieved that as a whole, we're gradually seeing the reopening and business returning to some normalcy.
I mean, you sound super optimistic and positive, upbeat on the United States market. Have you seen any evidence, David, just in the last, I don't know, week or so, of people canceling bookings in places like Texas and Florida, which is a very popular destination for travel because of the uptick in cases we've seen there?
Well, thankfully, I haven't. Really, since around April 12th, where we hit our low, I've seen a gradual improvement every single week. We started seeing a very solid recovery over Memorial Weekend. And the last 2 weekends, we've seen occupancy over 50% both weekends. So that's very, very encouraging to see.
David Kong, thanks so much for joining us.